Welcome to Module 3 of Microsoft Excel 2019. In this module, we're going to be working with large worksheets, charting, and doing a what-if analysis. In this project, we're going to be creating a worksheet and a clustered column chart. So Manola Department Stores Incorporated operates a store in Manchester, New Hampshire. The store has multiple departments such as electronics, clothing, appliances, and toys. Each December and June, the Chief Executive Officer projects monthly sales revenue, costs of goods sold, gross margin, expenses, and operating income for the upcoming 6-month period based on figures from the previous 6 months. The CEO requires an easy-to-read worksheet that shows financial projections for the upcoming 6 months to use for procuring partial financing and for determining staffing needs. The worksheet should allow for quick analysis when projected numbers change, such as the percentage of expense allocated to commission or the cost of miscellaneous expenses. In addition, we'll need to create a column chart that shows the breakdown of expenses for each month in the period. Our first step in this project is to create or to download the actual file itself. So we're working with 111 Module 3 textbook project. I'm going to open up that. I'm going to download the file. And once I download the file, I am going to work just with this file here. Now, when we open the textbook project file, it will come up and we will take a look at it. And remember, we always want to start with their download file. Okay, it looks pretty blank, but I'm just going to fit it to our window here. And we can get started. Okay, so now we're ready to get started. We are going to start with the headings. So we have a heading and a subheading. The heading in cell A1 is going to be Manola Department Stores Incorporated, so comma INC. And in cell A2, we're going to type 6-month financial projection. Okay. Our next step, they're asking us to apply the slice theme to the workbook. So I'm going to go to page layout. And on page layout, I have themes. I'm going to drop down and I'm going to see if I can find the slice theme. And it's right here. It has a blue band and it is slice. So I'm going to choose slice. If you don't have that theme in there, just move on and you can let me know later. Okay, so we've got our our heading and our subheading, and now we're going to start entering some data. Okay, so we're going to go back to our home tab and we are going to start with January in cell B3. Okay, so in B3 we're going to type in the word January. Okay, so we have January, and then in the home tab, so I'll go back and select it. So I have January selected. We're going to go into the alignment group up here, and we're going to have the dialog box in our alignment setting. That's what that means. And what we have here now is we can do a whole bunch of stuff with our text. So we are planning on rotating this to 75 degrees. So if I go all the way up here They want 75 degrees. I could have used the up and down arrows, and that's okay. So what it's going to do is it's going to, I'll just show you what happens when we do that. It will change the rotation of January so that we can read it like that. Okay, and then we're simply going to fill until we get to June. January, February, March, April, May, June. Okay, so because we fixed the formatting and filled at that time, once we do that, then it will fill with the formatting as well. So we got that. In H3, we're going to type total and right arrow key, and you'll notice that even though we didn't do the fill, it followed along with our formatting, and then we will type in chart. Okay, so we have that going. Next, we're going to change the column widths. So we simply want to increase the boundary between the column heading A and column heading B. So if we look right here, column heading A and column heading B. So we're going to drag that until we get to 38.5. Okay, so we're going up, and one thing I find is that it's not always easy to get it exact. So if you get it so far, then you can just right mouse button click column width, and we can change that to 38.5. Just easier to do it. Now that we have that, we are going to change the size of all the rest of them. So column heading B, and we're going to drag through to G to select the range. So we're going to do all three, so B to G. And we're going to change the width of that to 15. So I'm going to right mouse button click, column width, I'm going to type in 15. Okay. So now we have our cells. They're doing pretty good there and pretty big. Okay, so we're going to go to column H, and then we are going to increase the column width to 18 for column H. Column width is 18. So that's a little bit bigger, and usually it's so that we can have the room for totals because they tend to be bigger. Okay, so now we're going to enter our row titles, and we'll just get started with those. In A4, we're going to be typing revenue. And then in A5, cost of goods sold. A6, gross margin. Enter twice. A8, expenses. A9, bonus. A10, salary. A11, site rental. A12, marketing. A13, miscellaneous. A14, total expenses. A16, operating income. And 2 enters to A18, and we're going to type in what if, capitalize that, if assumptions. So I have the row headings there. Now we're just going to do a little bit of indenting in order to separate it out a bit. So I'm going to select A5, and in A5 I can just simply go and increase the indent. So up in the alignment group, under increase indent, you'll see it. It's right above the word alignment. So I'm going to increase the indent of cost of goods sold. And then I'm going to select all of the expenses, bonus, salary, slight renter, all the way down to A13. So A9 to A13, and I'm going to increase the indent once. Okay, so I could increase it more than once if I wanted to, but I only wanted it increased one. So now we have it starting to look a little bit better. So we're just going to deselect the cell. Now we're going to copy some of our information from column A. We're going to copy all of the expenses, I'll just X out of that, down to the what if assumptions. Because we're going to do some what if. So what if we spend less on this and more on that, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we're going to be looking at in a bit. But all we're doing now is we're going to take our information from bonus, salary, marketing, all the way from A9 to A13. And we're going to copy this into our what if assumptions down here. Okay, so it's quite simple. We can just do a copy and paste. So we'll go up here and we'll copy the information, and we'll go down to A19, and we'll simply use the paste button. Okay, so it pasted the information as well as the formatting that we required for that to happen. And then I'm just going to deselect that cell. However, you notice that I have my dashed lines around my expenses. So I could actually just keep pasting that. It says that I can keep pasting that. But if I selected somewhere else or did something else, this would go away and it wouldn't stay on my clipboard. It's not like Word where things just stay on your clipboard as long as you don't copy anything else. Excel causes you to lose this from your clipboard. Okay, so in order for us to stop the dash line going around, I just push escape and then it goes away. Our next job is that we want to enter a few more rows. We need some more data down in the what if assumption. So what we're going to do is we're simply going to insert a row and add the information we need. So I'm going to select on row 19, and I'm going to right mouse button click, and I'm going to insert. Okay, so as soon as I pushed insert, you'll notice that it inserts something above. Okay, so it inserts something above. So I want to insert the word margin right here, margin, above, and I need to add another line, and I'll just click there, and I want to format this. So my formatting, if I had done it at the same time, I could have simply told it to insert the same, format the same as above, but what I want is I'm going to select this, or the bonus, and I will go to my format painter, and I'll click once. You'll notice it selected it, and the format painter simply paints the formatting I want, and I'll click on the word margin, and it formats it exactly the same as the other. Okay, so I have margin, bonus, and I need to add sales revenue for bonus. So I'm going to select the row 21, right mouse button click. I'm going to insert, and I'm going to insert the word sales revenue for bonus, and I will select enter. Okay, so now I have the margin, bonus, sales revenue for bonus, salary, site rentals, marketing, and miscellaneous. I'm now going to save my worksheet, so I'll use the Save As button. So I'll do a Save As, and I will put it on my desktop in my Excel folder, create a new folder for Module 3. And in module 3, I will change the name of this whole thing. Click off. And it's going to be called SC underscore EX underscore 3 underscore Manola. Okay, Manola. And I will choose save. So I've saved that. And now I'm going to insert some more information in here. So I have to enter data. I'm going to start on, what is that, B19. So B19, on B19, I'm going to type in 81.25% to tell it it's a percent. I will enter 5,000 in the bonus in B20, 5,000. I'll enter that. And 1,250,000 in B21. B22 is 20%. B23 is 10%. B24 is 3.5%. And B25 is 5%. Okay, so I put the percents in so it knows what I'm talking about. So we have entered the data in from B19 to B25. Now I'll go up to the top in January, so B4, and I'm going to enter the revenue for January, February, March, April, May, June. Okay, so 1,470,500. I'm not formatting it right now, I'm just leaving it there. 1,405,000. 1,186,600. 1,498,000. 1,102,900. And 1,145,300. And then I will use the auto sum to sum that all up. Okay, summed it all up. Looks good. We want people, when they open up the sheet, to be able to have the date available that the sheet was fixed up or changed. So if they printed it, it would be the date, today's date. So we're going to use the now function. And in H1, right here up in H1, we're going to have today's date. So we can do that a few ways. The first way we're going to do is we look at, and we're just going to say equals. And I could just type now, but I'm going to look in my insert function. Okay, I'm going to look in my insert function, and I'm going to look for a category called date and time, because I know that's what I'm looking for, but so maybe I just don't know what it's called. I'll scroll down here and I'll find it says now. Once I click now, it says returns the current date and time formatted as date and time. Okay, so that's what now does. So that's something we want put up here. So I'll just say OK, and it returns the format, like it tells us what happens. And what it means by it takes no arguments means that there are empty brackets. So we open and close the brackets. We don't need to put anything else in there. Now is one of those functions that we just leave to look exactly like this, and it changes constantly. So I'll say OK, and you'll notice it put today's date and what time it is. So that's good. And that function argument works really well for us. but maybe we want to change the format of this. So we're going to change the format so that we don't have the time in there. Okay, so I'm just going to go up to, it says custom, I'm going to go into my drop down number format. Okay, and you'll notice that it has year, 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 month, month, day, day, hour, and minutes. Okay, so I don't really want that. I'm going to change it to a date. And in that date category, I will take the 2012-03-14. That's the one I'm going to choose. And I will just say OK. Okay, so then it took away all of the time, which is kind of nice, and I like that better. So I'm going to save my worksheet again so we can move on. And we're going to be moving on to copying using absolute and relative cell referencing. So when we do absolute and relative cell referencing, I'll explain it as we go and what difference it's going to make as we go along. So right now we're going to start with an absolute cell reference. And when we talk about absolute cell reference or cell referencing, it just means that we're referencing another cell. Okay, that's all it means. So we're going to select B5 and we want to enter our first formula in B5. So we want to find out what the cost of goods sold is. Okay, so the cost of goods sold is the formula. They've actually given us all of the formulas about what they expect with our formulas, and they put that on page, oops, I'm just going back here. They put that back somewhere. I was just trying to find where I saw it somewhere. Oh yeah, it is on page EX3-3. It talks about what the calculations are for that. So the cost of goods sold equals revenue times bracket 1 minus margin. Okay, so we're going to work with those. So if you're ever unsure about what the calculations were, just go back to EX3-3 page and it talks about what their calculations are. So we're going to type in equals, and in that case we're going to select cell B4, which is right up here. So we have B4, nope, not B3. We'll just change that to B4 because sometimes it doesn't let me select it when it's too close. So we have B4 times, and then we use a bracket, oops, 1 minus, and we want to type in B19, okay, B19. So B4 times 1 minus B19. So that's the first one we're going to do. So what happens here is B19 is the value down here. It's a cell and I want to stay on that cell. But I'm going to show you what happens if I don't. Okay, so I'm just going to say enter. If I fill right now with my cost of goods sold, so I'm going to double click. So now we have B4 times 1 minus B19 right down here. So if I drag and drop or just drag and fill over to the next one, I'm going to get a bit of a problem here, okay? Because what happens is, if I'm going to double click that, it did what's known as a relative cell reference. It says that instead of staying on the margin here, it did a relative fill reference across. So it went C4 times 1 minus C19. So I never told it that I always want you to have 1 minus B19 always for all the cost of goods sold around. Okay, so I'm going to now fix that and show you what happens when we use what's known as relative cell referencing. So I'll just delete that all out. And I'll go back onto this one. And I'm going to put my cursor in B19 and I'm going to push the F4 button. okay? The F4 button, I can push it many times and it changes where the dollar sign is, but I use the dollar sign to think of it as stay in, okay? So I want 1 minus stay in column B and stay on row 19. So I want it to stay absolutely in this cell right here. So then I'll push enter. So now when I fill across, I'll just do a little fill here. Try that again. And then I'll just go onto this cell and double check. So it now did C4, which is what I wanted to do, times 1 minus B19. Okay, so that's known as absolute cell reference. It's absolutely staying in this cell right here. Okay, so I could fill that all the way across and it should work just fine. So that's my cost of goods sold. My gross margin, when I do my gross margin, I want my revenue minus my cost of goods sold. So I'm going to say equals revenue minus, and in this case I can't select my cell because it's sort of hidden back there, but I want it to be minus B5. Okay, so I want it to say B4 minus B5. Okay, so when I fill across here, it actually does exactly what I want to. It does a relative cell reference. Okay, so if I had B4 minus B5, in here I have C4 minus C5. So that makes my life so much easier understanding between relative, absolute and relative cell referencing. So I've created those two. So this is, I put the dollar sign here in front of the B to say stay in column B. I put the dollar sign in front of the 19 to say stay in row 19. Okay, so we've got our revenue, we found our cost of goods sold, and now we know what our gross margin is at this point. Now we're going to work on using the if function. When we think about the if function, we really think about it as a sentence. So an example would be, in sort of real life, if the sky was blue, so that's what our parameters are. If the sky is blue, then we don't bring an umbrella. If not, then we bring an umbrella, right? So we have if true and if false. So if the sky is cloudy, then if true, we bring an umbrella. If the sky is cloudy, and if it's not cloudy, then we don't bring an umbrella, right? So we're just looking at an if function. It's like a sentence, so you try and figure. So if it's true, yes. If not, then not. So in this case, we're trying to figure out whether they're going to get a bonus or not. And that's going to be based upon our sales revenue for our bonus and our actual revenue. So if we look down here, we see that there is a sales revenue for bonus. If you made 1.25 million, then you would get a bonus. If you didn't make that, then you wouldn't get a bonus. Okay, so in here we're going to have a function called if function. So if whatever logic test we're looking at, in this case our logic test is we have to beat, or we have to equal or exceed our sales revenue in order to get a bonus. If that's true, then we'll get the $5,000 bonus. If not, then they wouldn't. Okay? And the reason it's in expenses is because if we pay bonuses, then that is an expense that we are paying out, right? Like salary, etc. So let's try this. So we're going to say, we're going to start with the equals. And I'm just going to say equals, and then I'll go up to my function, fx, because we like to be able to see this in the function bar. So I'm going to look under logical, because it's logical. and we will select if. Okay, so you'll notice down here it says if the logic test value is true or false, right? If true or false. So we're just checking to see whether a condition is met. So I'm going to say okay. And then my function argument will come up. I'm just going to move this over so that we can see what we're looking at. And when we have our function arguments like this, it can show us whether we're making an error or not, because if it comes up and it doesn't give us a value, then we know that we did something wrong. So let's think about our logic test. So our logic test says if our revenue, right? If our revenue, so we'll select B4, is going to be greater than, so we use the greater than sign, or the equal sign, so greater than or equal to. So we said if B4, which is my revenue, is greater than or equal to my sales revenue for bonus. So I'm going to select this cell down here, okay? And that's B21. So you'll notice that they put a true over here, right? In this case, my sales revenue for January was greater than my sales revenue required, greater than or equal to my sales revenue that is required for the bonus. The other piece of this, though, is that because I always want to calculate my bonus based upon this cell down here, I'm going to absolute cell reference it so that it always refers to this cell here, B21. So I'm going to select F4, and F4 put the dollar sign in front of the B and in front of the 21 to say stay in column B, row 21. Okay, so our logic test is done. If B4 is greater than or equal to B21, it says that's true. So now, if it's true, what do we do? Okay, so if true, then we actually get to put $5,000 there. So if true, they get a bonus, right? And the bonus is $5,000. And right down here, it shows that the $5,000 is what the actual value is going to be. So I'm going to absolute cell reference that because I want it to always stay in that bonus area. Because what happens if I decide, okay, next month we're going to change that bonus to $6,000? Then it will automatically update everything. So I'll push F4. So it stays in column B20. But now what happens if it's false? If it's false, then they get nothing. Then a 0 stays there. So if false, I'll put a 0. Okay? So if false, it says my formula result is $5,000 because it's true. Okay, so I'm going to say okay. So now what happens is we've done our first if function. So if they make enough revenue, so if the revenue in B4 is greater than or equal to the sales revenue required for bonus, then they get a bonus. If not, then they get nothing. Okay? So let's say instead of 125,000 down here, I said they had, or 1.25 million, I said they had to have 1.5 million. So this is my trigger now, right? And then, because they only made 1.47 million, they didn't get a bonus, okay? So that means that it automatically updates whether they get a bonus or not. So I'm going to change this back to 1.250123, okay? So that they actually get the bonus. So now that we have that in there, we can see that we can fill this across and see if they get bonuses all the way across in February, March, April, May, and June. I'm going to undo that. Oops, I'll say okay. And then I'm just going to undo that because it didn't do it very nicely. Okay, so I'll try that again. I'll just file across. And in February, because they made 1.4 million, they got a bonus. In March, they made 1.18 million. They didn't make it past the threshold of 1.25 million. In April, they did. In May, they didn't. And in June, they didn't. Okay? So there's no bonus that's going to happen during June, May, and March. Now that we have completed our bonus, and we are going to continue on and finish up the expenses. So if I go to page 3-3, I can see what my expenses are. So my salary expense equals revenue times salary percentage. Okay, so I'll go revenue, so B4, times the salary percentage. So I'll go down to salary. Salary is 20%. I'll click on that. And then I want it to be absolute cell reference, so I will F4 that value right there. So I have B4 times the absolute cell reference of B22. So that one looks good. Site rental. On site rental expense, it says that equals revenue, so B4 times site rental percentage. So I'll go to site rental percentage, which is B23. I'll absolute cell reference that. So B4 times the absolute cell reference of B23. Marketing is revenue, so that equals revenue times the, where are we? Marketing percentage. So marketing percentage is this value down here on B24. So absolute cell reference. So if we changed any of those percentages, it wouldn't make any difference. It would just update it automatically. And miscellaneous equals revenue. Again, so B4 times miscellaneous expense percentage, B25, and I'll F4 that. Oops, cancel, push the wrong button, F4. Okay, F4 and push enter. The last one is I'm going to do a sum here of my total expenses. So I'll just use auto sum. Make sure it does exactly what I want. So I want it to go to B9 to B13. So I'll push enter and that's correct. Now I can fill this across and I'll fill it all the way till June. It will fill all of that in. If I wanted to double check that I had done the correct formulas, I could do my control tilde, squiggly line is what I call it. And that's where I could check my formulas. I'm going to do a control squiggly line again and drop it back down. Okay, so I have that. My operating income, if I put my operating income in B, I forgot to do that, in B16, that equals B6, or my gross margin. So I'll push equals my gross margin in January minus B14, which is my total expenses. Okay, oops, I forgot to put the minus sign in there. B6 minus B14. Push enter, and I will use the fill handle on that to just fill it right across. And then I should get my totals done here. So in here, my cost of goods sold, I'll use an auto sum so that it's summed across. That's good, that's exactly what I wanted. So I have the sum of B5 to G5, and then I will fill down. And I can also do the same over here. I'll do my auto sum, fills across, shows me that I want B9 to G9, and then I'll just fill down. So now we've gotten all of our totals done. We just looks like we need some formatting, and then we're going to create our chart. So now we're going to add something called spark lines, and this is really just a visual representation of the changes in our revenue, cost of goods sold, gross margin, expenses, etc. So it's just a really pretty little visual that we're going to put in. So we're going to select I4. We'll start with I4. And that's where we're going to start with our spark lines. And we're going to have spark lines down here. And you'll see what they look like. So we're going to go to the Insert tab. And then we're going to select the lines. So see, we have spark lines here. So we have different types of spark lines. So we're going to start with a line. Okay, so we're going to start with line. And this asks us, okay, well, what data range do you want us to select? So we have to think, okay, what do we want to see? So in this case, our data range is going to be from January to June in the revenue. Okay, so I'll select January through to June. Okay, so I have B4 to G4. And then it says, where do I want them to be placed? Well, I've already selected where I wanted them to be placed. I want them to be placed right there. So I'll just say OK. So this has sort of given me a little bit of a spark line to say, okay, we were high in January and we dropped a little in February, and then we dropped quite a bit in March, and we started to go back up in April. So we can see that this chart just sort of shows us our trend. Okay, so that created our trend. So we've got a trend, or we've got it set up for this area right here. If I click on the actual value where the spark lines is, you'll notice that I have now a little tab here for spark lines. But if I select off of it, it's gone. So if I select on, it shows me the different types of spark lines that I can choose. Okay, so I can choose spark lines, and I can change the way that I'm doing it. So there's lots of different types in here. So you'll notice this is the one we have. I could choose a different color or different, oops, I went off of it. I could choose a different color. I could choose a different weight. I could change the weights. I could change the markers, etc. So we're going to click blue sparkline accent 1. Okay, so I want blue sparkline accent 1 lighter 40%. Okay, so if I chose that one, then I could have created this spark line in here, and then when I fill down, it's going to fill, oops, got to click off of it. It will fill the actual spark lines that I want. Okay, so now you'll notice that it doesn't fill in the data that I don't have. And then if I look here, whoops, X out. So my spark line here, if I click off of it and click back on, it's showing me all of my spark lines that I have up here. Okay, so it just doesn't change much, of course, because we haven't had that much of a change. So you would think, okay, well, it should be changing a lot, but it doesn't, because if we had revenue, cost of goods sold is the same percentage, it should look generally the same. The only one that's a little bit different is the one in the bonuses, where it shows that we got $5,000 bonuses and then nothing, and then $5,000 bonus and then nothing till the end. So we can see the difference there. All right, so we're going to change the type of spark line. So we're going to select our spark lines here, and we're going to change it so that it's a column design, so we can give a better idea, because the line isn't all that great for us. So we're going to change to a column, and this just shows the different months, and then we can change it to a different color if we wanted to, but we're just going to keep this right the way it is, and we will select off of it and save your worksheet. So I'm going to save again. Now we need to format this worksheet to make it a little bit more readable. So we're going to select the range B4 to H4. So B4 over to H4. And we're going to select the control key and select B6 to H6. Looks like it didn't stay, didn't it? So we'll try that again. Okay, so we're going to select B4 to H4, hold the control key, A6. Do I have that wrong? Yeah, I don't want, I'm going to remove those two there. Okay, so I selected them with the control key. I can deselect if I do something wrong. So I want a B4 to H4 and B6 to H6. I want B9 to H9, B14 to H14, and B16 to H16. Okay, so I want 9 to H, and I want B14 to be H14, and then the operating income as well, so B16 to H16. Okay, so I've selected, I've let go of my control key, and now I'm going to see what I need to do with it. So I'm going to select the currency. So I'll use the drop down and I'll select currency. Okay, and it should give me 2 decimal points and what's known as the floating dollar sign that sticks nice and close to the numbers. Okay, so we want to ensure that the dollar sign shows in the cells to be formatted, and we want the red font color in the negative numbers. So I'll just double check that. So I'll use my open this number format, and I want to make sure that it's red. Okay, so I'm going to choose the red negative. Okay, so that's good. There's no negative values, so that's awesome. Then we're going to make sure that they might give us, we got that all figured out. Then we're going to select something else. So we want to select comma style for the remaining dollar values in here. So B5, oops, let's go X, I selected too fast. Okay, B5 to H5, hold your control key, and B9 all the way to H9. Oh, try that again. All the way, B9 all the way to H13. Okay, so we want that to be set to comma style. So I will select comma style. Looks good. Then I'm going to fix the titles up here. Okay, so I'm going to go up to A1, and I'm going to bold the A1. I'm going to increase it to 28, so I can just type 28. I'm going to increase the font in A2. I'll increase that one to 16. Okay, so we have that. And then the range A1 to I2, A1 to I2. We want to change the fill color to dark blue text 2. So we're going to go over to fill, down arrow. We want to go dark blue. I see dark blue text 2, lighter 80%. Okay, lighter 80%, dark blue text 2, lighter 80%. Okay, and then with this still selected, A1 to I2, change the font color to dark blue accent 1. So font color, dark blue, accent 1. So then I will deselect the range. So we're going to select A3 to I3. So we'll select A3 to I3. And we're going to apply heading style to that. So we have our cell styles. And we're going to supply a heading 3 style. So we'll select that one. In A6 to H6. So A6 all the way over to H6. And A14 to H14. So I'm going to hold my control key, A14 to H14. And then A16 to H16. Control key again, all the way over. Okay, we got that. We want to apply the total cell style, so we'll go there and we'll apply the total. So it's got a single top underline and a double bottom underline. And it bolded it. Okay. So then we're going to select A4 and we're going to change the fill color to apply the last fill color used. So because it's set there, right, we used the last fill color. That was dark blue text 2, lighter 80%. So it's going to match up here at the top. And then we're going to apply the same font color as well. Okay, so I just got to make sure I'm still on it, and I'll make sure that font gets selected. Okay, so it doesn't look like it changed the font, but it probably did. It's just that it's so small. Okay, so we want to double check here, and we want to choose that font color. All right, so we're going to use the Format Painter to copy that format to different cells. So we want to copy that format. So I'm going to go click on A4, and then I'm going to double click my Format Painter. If I single click, that means I can use it once. If I double click, then it stays until I tell it to go away. Okay, so I'm going to double click and it's selected, and then I'm going to choose gross margin. You see my painter's still on there. I have a paintbrush. And operating expense. Operating income. Okay, so it changed my operating income to look like that. I'm thinking it was supposed to be bold because it just looks a little bit bolder there. Maybe it was supposed to be bold. It doesn't actually say that, so I'll just leave it there and we'll see what happens. If we have to fix it later on because they said it wasn't bold, then we can do that. So then I will deselect my Format Painter, and I'm going to change my what if assumptions down here. So I'm going to select A18, and I'm going to change the font size to 9. Okay, so I'll drop that down to 9. I'm going to italicize, so right up here, I'll italicize, and I will underline that. So the what if assumptions. Then I'll select the range A19 to B25. So A19 to B25. Oops. Let's cancel this. A19 to B25. And we're going to change the font size to 9. So it's 9. And then we're going to select the range A18. A18. So we'll start there. Oops, I'll click off. A18 to B25. And we're going to change the fill color to apply the most recently used background color fill. So we'll just click that. And then we're going to click the font color. And we're going to apply the most recently used font. So we'll change the font color as well. Okay, and we'll select off of that. And then we will save. So it's time to do our chart. So we're going to create our clustered column chart on a separate sheet. So when we first get started, we want to select the range that we want on the chart. So we're going to select the range A3 to G3. Okay, so A3, we select there, and we'll just A3 to G3. Okay, so obviously we're going on our months, right? So A3 to G3. So we're doing January, February, March, April, May, June. And we're going to hold down the control key because we're doing a non-adjacent selection. And we're going to select the data in A9 to G13. Okay, so we'll start with A9 to G13. Okay, so we now have the months and all of the expenses that are there. Okay, so in our months, we'll have them clumped together with the expenses. Okay, so then we're going to go to the Insert tab, and it shows we're going to go to our recommended charts. So if we selected recommended charts, it says, oh, we recommend one of these. And the first choice is our clustered column. So our clustered column, if we selected another one, it just sort of shows the different ways that you could look at it. So in this one down here, do you notice that it just shows all of the expenses and how much was paid each month that way. But in this case, what we see is January, February, March shows what the differences are. So we can see salary is obviously the biggest, right? So we want to choose this one. So we'll just say OK. And now that we have it here, we want to move it to a different sheet. So we're going to move chart. So under our chart design, you'll notice that's highlighted. We want to move our chart. So I'll select that to a new sheet, and we're going to name it Expense Chart Sheet. Expense Chart Sheet. Okay, and then we'll just say OK. So that's going to put it on its own sheet over here. We haven't given it a chart title or anything like that, but we have told it that we wanted it on its own sheet. So we'll fix the chart title. So as soon as I click on chart title, I can start typing. I don't have to delete that. So what we want is chart title to say 6-month projected expenses. So it looks like when we're doing it, chart title stays there, but if we're typing up here in the formula area, right, we can see that we're typing up here, but it's not coming in. But as soon as I push enter, then it will be there. So I'll push enter, and 6-month projected expenses is there. So we want to select the text because we're going to change some formatting on here. And we're going to go back to our Home tab, and we will click the underline button. Okay, so we've now underlined that. If we select anywhere else, it will go away. 6-month projected expenses. We're going to add some data labels on here so we can see, and we'll see what that means, because up here we want to see what these numbers are exactly. So data labels are just data pieces of information that are placed there for ease of reading in the chart. So we're going to click the chart to select it, and then we'll go up here. So if we look here, we have format and chart designs. Okay, so we have 2 different tabs up here. So this one talks about the formatting, and this one talks about the design of the chart. So we want to go, see, I just clicked one, I didn't mean to click that. So we'll fix that in a bit. So we want to add chart elements. So over here in the chart layout, we want to add some elements. Okay, so if we look at this, we can do that over here, or we can actually do that over on this area here, right within the chart. Okay, so in the chart, so there's 2 ways of doing, well, always more than 2 ways of doing things. So we'll click on the chart elements, and it says that we want to add our data labels. Okay, so you'll notice as soon as I hovered over it, what it put up there. So it's going to actually put the value on our data for each line. So I will select data labels, and if we push over here, it shows where do we want them to be, right? Inside end, inside base, outside end, data calls out. So you can just see the different ways that we're going to put it. So in our cases, we are going to have the outside end. Once I select that, I want it on the outside end, okay? So that's sort of the default. I can double check data labels are outside end, okay? So we want to show that, and we can sort of experiment with other ones just to see what it looks like. Okay, now that we have that, we can select in here and it will go away. So our next thing is we want to do some filters. There's certain things we don't really want to see, so we're going to do a bit of filtering to choose what we're going to show. All right, in the series, we want to click the bonus and salary check bar so that they're not there. So we're going to remove the bonus, click, and the salary. Okay, so we wanted to remove them, the bonus and the salary, and then we need to apply. So you notice it didn't just magically disappear, but it allows us to get rid of these two, and then we'll change up the chart. It could also choose to only see January, February, and March, so we could do that as well. So I'm going to apply, and then what happened is you'll notice that it just changed completely because we got rid of the salaries, and because the salaries were so high. So we're good with that. We're going to add an axis title to the chart. Okay, so we'll go back up here where we have our elements, and in our elements we want to add an axis title. Okay, so if we select over there, we can see in our axis title that we can choose whether we want a primary horizontal or a primary vertical. So if we see where it goes, we can have both if we want. So down the bottom of the chart, we can see where it says axis title. That's just what we're going to put in there. So in this case, it's probably going to be month, and primary vertical might be the word dollars. So we're going to choose the primary vertical, okay? And then we would just type what we wanted it to say. Okay, so we've left that. And what are we calling it? I don't even see what we're calling it. Oh, we're just putting a $sign in there, and then we're going to change it so that it is a different way. So we're going to select this axis title, and we're going to get rid of our chart elements because we've already put that up there. And then we're going to, what are we else? Oh, click the vertical on the axes. We got that. And then we're just going to remove that, and we will type with a $sign in here, push enter, and you'll notice as soon as I put the $sign, it's got the $sign going upwards, right? We don't really want it to go upwards like that. We need to format that so that it is going not vertical. We want it horizontal. So we're going to right mouse button click on that and format our axis title. Okay, another way to do that, if you don't have your right mouse button click, would be to go to the format up here, and you would just choose this format vertical axis title. Okay, and then what we want to do when we've selected that is we want to change it so the alignment is the rotation is going horizontal. Okay, that looks better. We don't want an angle, and we want to make sure it goes horizontal, and then we can close that. Okay, so we'll just X out of that. That looks better. If we change the chart style, it's going to be our next step is to change the chart style. So we want to change the style. So I'll just go up to chart. We'll open it back up. And we want to change it to chart style 6. Let's see. 8, 7, 6. All right. So we've got our chart style, we've changed our axes, our vertical axes. We did not put a horizontal axis title on there. And then we need to move to modify the chart axis number formatting. So we need to select the values that we're going to format, and we're looking at the chart axes here. So we can just select any one of these numbers up here. So it's anywhere we selected. It's now got this selected. So we're going to right mouse button click, and if you don't have right mouse button click, you can go up to format and go vertical axes here. So that's what we've selected. And then we can format the selection there. Okay, so there's two ways of doing things. Got it. So the right mouse button click is going to do the same thing as that. So right now we want to, let's see what we want to do. We want to make sure that it is number. I'm just looking to see what we got going on. Okay. So we're going to scroll down here to the format axis for number. And we still get to get up there a little bit. And in that category, we want to change that to number. We want to change the decimal places to 0. Okay. And we want to make sure that it's going to go to our negative is going to be red. So I think we've done everything we needed to. And then we can close that. Okay, so now we've gotten rid of all the decimals, which is nice because we didn't need to see all the decimals. And in fact, we don't need to see all the decimals up here. So we're going to be removing these data labels because they're actually kind of distracting, but they could be fine. But we're going to remove the filter and we're going to remove the data labels. Okay, so we'll go back to our chart elements. I'll click off, click on my chart, select chart elements, and we're going to remove the data labels. We'll just select it. And if we look, our data labels are gone. Okay. So then we're going to go back to the filter, the chart filter, in that flyout menu here. And in the series section right here, we're going to select the bonus and the salary again, and then we will apply that to get it back so that it looks just like that chart right there. And so we're finished with our chart. We're just going to change our sheet names and the background colors for those names. Then we should be just about done. So we want to change the color of the expense chart sheet tab. So I'll just click on that, right mouse button click, and change the color. So I'm going to tab color to dark blue, text 2. Dark blue, text 2. There we go. So we're going to double click on sheet 1. Okay, if I double click, I can just type in 6 month financial projection. Okay, I'm just going to double check. I think I have to be careful here to make sure I didn't put a space in any time I put the word 6 month. So up here is good. I'll check my chart, 6 month. I didn't put a space in there. That's good. Just want to double check because it's going to mark me wrong if I do. And I think we're going to change the color of that sheet as well. So if I click on that sheet, right mouse button click, tab color to light turquoise background 2. Light turquoise background 2. Okay, so now I've changed the sheet. I'm going to reorder the sheet. I'll just select off of that. And what I'm going to do is just make it so that the 6-month financial projection is before the chart. So I grabbed it. You see it looks like a piece of paper. And then I'm going to move it over, and the arrow shows that I'm dropping it on that side. Okay, so this sheet is first, and then my chart is going to be next. All right, this doesn't look like it's underlined anymore, does it? Oh, that's probably because I changed it. Okay, so we got that. We've changed that. We're going to do a spell check. So we're going to select both sheets. So I have selected this sheet, and then I'm going to hold the control key, and I'm going to click on the expense chart sheet. Okay, so now you'll notice that it sort of turns a little white, and I have 2 sheets selected. So I'm going to do my spell check on that. So I'll go up to my review, and I'll go over to my spelling. Okay, it says, do you want to continue checking at the beginning of the sheet? I always do, yes. And it says Manola, and it doesn't, we're going to ignore Manola because that's correct. We'll ignore all of that, and it means I didn't spell anything incorrectly. That's good. Okay. Now, I checked my spelling. I still have my sheets selected. So I'm going to go to File and do some printing here, but I'm not actually going to print. I'll select my print, and you'll notice it says that I have 42 pages for some strange reason, and this is what seems to be happening all the time. It seems to have a lot of space left over, but I'll ignore that and just do what it says to do. So we want to change portrait orientation and then change it to landscape. That looks good. We want no scaling. Or no, we don't want no scaling. We want to fit sheet to 1 page. We'll just ignore that. For some reason, it has some extra areas in it. We don't want my printer. I'm just going to leave it so that it goes to a thing. I'm not going to specifically select it. And now that it's ready to go, we can ignore it. We'll back it out. And we'll go back to our sheet here. And then when I select on one of my sheets, okay, if I select on any one of the sheets, I can deselect, right, ungroup the sheets. Okay, so I want to ungroup the sheets so that they're not grouped together anymore. If we had them grouped together and I started typing in a cell, then it would type in the cell in all the sheets. So we ungroup the sheets, and then we're going to save it. Okay, so we have saved that. And I don't know whether we have to do anything else. So if we're just going to do a few things that they follow through with. So we're going to go to A1, and we're going to display the View tab. And if we look at the View tab, we have different things that we can do, but the one thing we're going to look at is the zoom. Okay, so we have a zoom, and we can magnify it. I can zoom and do it 75%, and I'll say okay. And so it basically shows all of the stuff. It just makes it so it's harder to read for those of us who like it closer. So we now have it zoomed at 75%. So we can also click the zoom out button on the status bar until it's displayed at 70%. Okay, so we can change that, and right down here, down the bottom here at the very bottom, we can go plus or minus, so we can go to 70%. All the worksheet is 70% using this down here. Now we could go back and say make it 100%, and it would just pounce back. We can also split it into panes so that we can sort of work on 2 panes at once. And that's really good if you want to, you have some data here that you'd like to sort of copy over or compare. So if we went to cell E8, let's go to cell E8, we're going to create a pane to split the window right there. Okay, so we're going to go to the View tab. We're going to click the Split Window. So you'll notice that there's up here is Split Window. So in our Windows group, we're going to click Split Window. Okay, so you see what it did is it created a split both ways so that we can now scroll this way, okay, and we can scroll different panes, all these different areas here. So this is very handy if you have information on one side of the sheet or in a group that you want to be able to visualize or look at or examine. Okay, so we can remove that simply when we click the split button again. Okay, then it goes away. So it's really handy. We also have the ability to freeze panes. So for example, if I wanted to select B4 right here, and I can go into freeze panes. So if I select freeze panes, I can freeze my panes so that January, February, March stays right there. And if I go sideways, it allows me to keep the actual columns or row headings there. So that is what's when we use our freeze panes, and we can just simply go back to our freeze panes and unfreeze it. Okay, so now we're back to normal and good to go. Okay, so we got a few little things we need to do. And that is to finish up the what if analysis. Okay, so now we have data down here, and we want to make sure that whatever data is down here automatically will populate. If we change, it will automatically fix it up here. Okay, so we're going to just change some values. So we're going to go to the worksheet so that row 4 is the first worksheet available. So we have row 4 up there. That's good. We're going to click in A7. Okay, we're just going to click in A7. And then we're going to split the windows. So we'll just click split window. So now we can split up and down. So I could actually scroll this way. Okay, so I got that. And then we want to show this until row 9 in the bottom thing. So I'm just scrolling up till we see bonus. Okay, and then we can see what changes. Okay, so then we're going to go over there, and in B20, we're going to say, what if the bonus is $7,500? Okay. So you notice how everything's going to change because we did an absolute cell reference. Okay. B22, our salary percent, we're going to change to 25. I don't have to put the percent in anymore. I put it in once, and now it knows it wants to be a percent. That's in B22. And then 3.5 in B25, miscellaneous, is 3.5%. Okay. So the operating income in H16 managed to decrease because we made some changes. Now right down here in B25, I noticed something, that it did not stay at 3.5. And I'm like, that's not cool at all. So I'm going to fix that because I don't like things not to stay with 2 decimals. So I'm going to make sure that all of these guys have 2 decimals. So I'm going to increase the decimal right here to 2 decimals. So that's too many, so I'll drop it down. So that's better. I don't know why this went to percent, so we're going to have to undo that. It seemed to want to be percent, so I'll get back to there. Okay, so that's 2 decimals. All of the percents, I'm going to increase the decimals to 2%. And then the salaries, I'll just leave that one as a comma style. And I think this is going to be comma style as well. Okay, I just wanted to make sure those look good. And then I'm going to save. Okay, so I think we're good. Oh, we're going to do a goal seek in here. All right. The final thing we need to do is goal seek. So what goal seek is it's simply a what if analysis that says, okay, well, if I really just want my operating income total to be this amount, by changing something, then what does it need to change to? So it does the math for us. So you're not going to have to figure out how to do it or what the actual goal seek is going to be. You'll just have to know how to create the goal seek. Okay, so in this case, they want their total operating income in cell H16 to be a specific value, and they're saying that they have some leeway when it comes to site rental. So site rental in this case is 10%. So they want to know if they can get their operating income up by decreasing the site rental cost. So it's going to be a business decision. Maybe they have to go back and renegotiate the site rental costs. So we're going to select H16 and we're going to go on up to create our what if analysis under our data tab. So we're going to select data and we're going to go all the way over here to forecast. Okay, so we got forecast. So we're going to use the drop down arrow and we're going to use goal seek. Okay, so goal seek says we want to set this cell, so that's our goal. So we want to set this cell to be 3.5 million. So we want it at 3,500,000. So 3,500,000. But which cell do we want to change, or which value can be changed? So in this case, we want our site rental, which is going to be B23. It automatically cell referenced it. Now it's going to do some math and calculate how it can get to 3.5 million by changing this one cell right here. Okay, so then we'll just say, okay, go ahead. And you noticed it did a whole bunch of math in there that was so fast we didn't even notice. Now it said that that is possible. That's what this did here. It said they found a solution, but they don't always find a solution. Okay, if they can't find a solution, then they tell us they can't find a solution. Okay, so we found that solution. So we don't necessarily have to take that solution, but it shows that I'm not even clicking anything. I'm just leaving it here because we might not want to take it. It simply says that we need to figure out if we can decrease our site rental cost to 4.14% from 10%, which is quite high. Okay, so we're not going to take it, but that's what GoalSeek does. So we're going to say cancel. So it goes back to its original values. We're going to remove the split. Okay, so we're going to go to page layout. Nope. View. We're going to remove our split so that we're right back to normal. And we're just simply going to save. Okay, so now that I've saved, I'm going to upload or change my file name and upload to SAM. Okay, so I'm going to get this ready for upload. I'm going to do a file save as because I want to change the name because I know that it is underscore my name. And then I will save that. And I will go into my Cengage It's looking for my name, and I will drag and drop it. Desktop. Okay, so I will drop it, submit it, and then if we have to fix anything, I will go and fix them. Because usually there's silly mistakes that are made. I think one of the mistakes could very well be the fact that we don't have the yep. So this is what I thought was going to happen, was the red font with negative numbers. We did that, but we seem to have a different version, so ours doesn't show the brackets, so we can see what we can fix in here. So I'm going to go through and fix these things. So it says in the first worksheet should contain sales revenue for bonus. So I will open mine up. See if I can find it right there. Sales revenue for bonus, sales revenue for bonus. That's what it says it should say, but I probably just spelt it wrong. Sales revenue for bonus. A21 should contain sales revenue for bonus. I think that might be a capital letter issue if I'm not mistaken. Yep, it's a capital letter. I forgot to put a capital letter for B, so we did that one. That one was easy. To enter the formula in the system date in the first worksheet, cell H1 should be formatted using YY month month DD date format. Okay, so I'll go there and look at that. Okay, so I'm just going to go over to my home page. I'm going to go down here. It says YY. I just have to double check that what they said. Month month day day. And this looks like it should be that. Not sure what's going on, so maybe I'll choose that one and say okay. I'm not sure. That one didn't make any sense to me. Year, 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 month, month, date, date. Okay, we did that. And then it says B4 to H4, use currency number format with 2 decimal places, the dollar symbol, and the red font color for negative numbers. B4 to H4. B4 to H4. Okay, currency, 2 decimal, symbol, and red. Let's double check. Red font for negative numbers, so we'll try that. See if that works. Because basically that's all we can do. This one says in the first worksheet, the range is A6 to H6, should be formatted using the total cell style. Pretty sure we did that too. Oh, I think I missed the A part. Let's change that, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, A. Okay. So I'll just go to gross margin and cell styles, and I'll do total. That one was done. Operating income was not done. Looks pretty good. I'm not sure why there's a 0 there. Betcha that's going to give me trouble. Okay, we did that. Cell A4 and A6. And the range should be formatted using dark blue text to 80%. A4, A6. These things that you think you did. A4, A6, A4 and A6 should be formatted using dark blue text to lighter 80%. Double checking again. Okay, so I'm going to finish these up and I should get 100%. So I won't make you watch while I fix the text stuff. And I will just show it once I get 100%. Okay, so the final analysis here is actually pretty sad. Because of the formatting that we have, because we're running on a Canadian version, we get marked deducted errors for things that are sort of beyond our control or that I haven't quite figured out how we can go around, and it's not really important as far as I'm concerned. So the things that should come up, that if you can get them to go away, that's awesome. But if you can't, it's okay. I can just fix this in your marks. That says H1 should be formatted using year, year, month, month, day, day, date, which it actually is. It's just fighting me on that. And same with the 2 decimal places, dollar symbol, and red font cover for negative numbers in the currency format for B4 to H4. And then finally in the expense chart, doesn't matter what I do, it still gives me this error, so that's fine. So just let me know if that happens to you, and then I will certainly fix that up for you in your mark. So that's it, we've got it in, and those should be the only errors that you have if you don't manage to fix those yourself. Okay, so we'll see you next time.